Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new Tom Ford Soleil Neige collection. So this is the Tom Ford holiday collection and I purchased all of the items. So let's go ahead. We're going to start off with the eyeshadows. And this here is the quad in number 1 Black Diamond. And let's go ahead and swatch these. So we are starting off with kind of this very pale, it's a soft peach with a bit of a white base to it. And this is going to be a matte shade. It does have a powdery texture to it. Next up, we have this shimmer shade here. And this it almost feels like a pressed glitter. It's going to be a little bit firmer in the pan. You can see that we do have a little bit of, pink and even a tiny bit of like a soft green glimmer to it. But the base itself, it's translucent. But it has a little bit of pink, a little bit of taupe in there. But you can see, even when I just shift this, you can see a little bit of pink and a little bit of green when the light hits it just right. And then our next shade here is going to be a brown satin shade. And there is a little bit of shimmer in here, a little bit of glitter particles. So you can see that this brown has a little bit of red in it. And I would say it's a warmish red brown, but closer to neutral than what we often see with those red or brown shades. So it's still slightly warm, but it's near neutral on the spectrum. And then our last shade here, this is going to be a deep purple shade. So a nice deep eggplant. This is matte. Again, we have more of that powdery texture like we did with the first one. So you do want to be careful with the powdery shades. Make sure you tap off your brush as well to prevent fallout. Let's take a look at the eye swatches and the demo. A few product details to begin. They have increased the price for this quad. It retails for $100 US. So it's definitely a hefty price tag for this. We have 7 grams of product and it is made in Italy with a 1-year shelf life. Now, according to Tom Ford, this is a breathtaking dimensional look. Soleil Neige Eye Color Quad in 01 Black Diamond expertly enhances lids with smoldering shadows and sheer buildable frosted shimmer. We have a quartet of velvety smooth powder shadows expressed in matte and shimmer finishes. These buildable shades custom enhance lids with vivid color, conjuring the sunlit summit of a winter mountain paradise. And it is formulated without alcohol or drying alcohol, phthalates, sulfates, parabens, mineral oil, sulfites, formaldehyde and donors, triclosan, and triclocarbon. It is stated to be long-wearing, suitable for all skin types, color-true, and non-streaking, flaking, settling, creasing, or pouring. So my thoughts on this palette, I do think it is a really beautiful color story. The powder shadows are really easy to use. Again, as I mentioned, they are going to be a slightly dustier powder formula, so you want to make sure you tap off your brush to prevent any fallout. You can definitely get fallout if you don't do that. So that is something to be aware of. I do really like this light peachy shade for my fair skin, kind of as an all over shade for the lid, but definitely on deeper complexions, you're going to see a bit more peach, and that can be more usable as an actual color. For me, it kind of blends in with my skin tone a little bit too well. The shimmer shade in here, the top right, I have to say I really love this shimmer because, again, we have kind of that peachy pink. It's almost the same shade as the first shade, but it's going to be translucent. And then we have all of this shimmer. And the shimmer is comprised of like champagne, gold, silver, pink, and green glitter. And I just love all of the different colors in there. And it's pretty concentrated. It's very, very finely milled, so you don't have big chunks. But we have a lot of glitter pieces in there so that you're really getting a lot of sparkle. You can definitely sheer it out using a brush. And I just think it's a really pretty shade. I think a really beautiful, simple look for this would be smudging one of the 2 darker shades along the lash line and then just covering the whole lid with the sparkle shade. There's enough color in the base that if you pile that on, you could use that and get a little bit of color from it. As for the brown satin shade, this is satin. We do have, again, there is a touch of glitter in here. It's going to be as finely milled as that in the shimmer shade. However, it's much less concentrated. We only have a little bit in there. It's a little bit more sporadic. I think it's a really beautiful shade. It goes on easily, blends out nicely, and it's going to be a little bit more of a firmer satin shade. So it's definitely not as powdery. There's not really any kick up with this. And as I mentioned, the eggplant shade, again, we have a powdery matte. This is a deep purple eggplant. We do have a little bit of red in the base for this. I would say if you're looking at an eggplant shade, this is neutral for eggplant, but eggplant overall does run a bit cool. So, you know, we definitely have kind of that deep purple with some blue, but we have a little bit of red in there as well to kind of balance it out. In regards to the quality, I think the formula here is okay. It's a fine formula. So we don't have anything spectacular about it, but there's also nothing bad about this formula. Everything goes on nicely. It blends out well. I don't foresee any issues with hard pan unless perhaps, you know, the shimmer shade, if you get too much oil or something in there, I could definitely see that perhaps getting a little bit of a film on it, but I think it would be easy to remove. That's really the only shade though that I could see anything like that happening to, and I don't think it will happen with normal use. So overall, no issues with the formula whatsoever. However, we do have a very steep price jump for this. You know, these palettes now retail for $100 US for this limited edition palette. I think it's a really nice color story. Whether or not that color story is going to be worth it to you is going to be a personal decision. As for the color story, it's nice. Again, the quality is okay, but there's nothing like outstanding about the particular formulas here. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few comparisons. I wanted to start off with the Dior Holiday palette in Soir de Bal. So you can see the color stories are not going to be the same, but we do have a few similarities here. So I did want to swatch, I'm just going to swatch these three here. And those three did look the most similar to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. We're going to put them right here so we can see how they compare. And here is our brown shimmer, and this is the purple. So they are not going to be exactly the same. You can see this is going to be more of a pearly light pink. The Tom Ford is going to be a bit more peach, and it's matte. Our brown satins, the satin in the Dior is going to be a cooler tone brown. We don't have as much red or warmth to it. And our purple is also going to be a little bit cooler in tone. We've got more blue in there, and that is actually going to be more of a satin shade. So while those are not dupes, I think they are very close. So while those are not dupes, I do think that they are very close. Another one I want to look at is the Dior Backstage. So again, we don't have, you know, exact dupes here, but I wanted to take a look at the peach and this brown here and this deep purple and kind of see how those compare. So this purple here in the middle. So these are those shades, and let's see here. We'll put the peach right up here. You can see that is going to be a little bit closer, but there's a little bit more nude sheen to it. It's a little bit deeper, a little bit warmer. The brown here, that is going to have a little bit more yellow in it. It's more of a golden brown. You can see it's actually slightly warmer. And then our purple here is going to have more red in it, and it's going to be lighter. Again, not dupes, but you can still get kind of the essence of the color story from these. So I hope these were helpful. I'm going to remove the Dior swatches, and then we're going to take a look at some previous Tom Ford palettes and see how they stack up. All right, so here's this year's Black Diamond, and this one was Lumiere d'Hiver. So this one came out, was this one last year? This might have been last year. So you can see that we have, I'm going to go vertically with these. We have more of a pale ivory matte shade. This has more yellow in it. Our sparkle here is going to be more of a taupe shade. And then we also have more of a silvery sparkle and a deep brown. I love the color story on here, but you can see overall this is going to be a much more neutral color story. Very beautiful colors though. Formula wise, these are pretty similar. So if you have this, the shimmers feel very similar, the mattes feel very similar. Okay, next, compared to Black Diamond, this is Emerald Dusk. This came out this summer. Again, our color story is gonna be different. We obviously have a green in here, but let's go ahead and take a look at these. This first shade is going to be a white ivory. It's very sheer and it has some shimmer in it. Then we have this green, and we have this brown. You can see that the brown here is going to be similar to that in the Black Diamond. This one has a little bit more warmth to it. It's a little bit more of a golden brown, whereas we have a little bit more red in the Black Diamond, but they're very close. It's just a subtle nuance of color. Now, this is the new Metallic Mauve palette that came out recently. So again, different color story, but we do have some similarities. I really wanted to take a look at the shimmer shade in this one to see how that compares, because you can see we also have kind of this multi colored shimmer in there as well. So here is the Metallic Mauve. And again, if you have this particular palette, formula wise, these feel very similar, although I have to say our mattes here don't feel quite as powdery. So this is the shimmer from Black Diamond. Let's see how that compares. It looks pretty much the same as that in Metallic Mauve. There's perhaps a bit more pink in the base on Black Diamond, but I'd say they're essentially the same. On the eye, you're not going to see any difference. So this is an older palette from Tom Ford. This is Pretty Baby, which is one of my favorites from Tom Ford. I really love this one. So we start off, we have kind of this satin taupe. We have a nice wisteria purple. And then we have a shimmery pink, and you can see that one has like a duochrome with a blue reflect. Got a bit of orange in there. And then we have this brown. And this brown is going to be significantly cooler than that of the one in Black Diamond. All right, so for this one, I just wanted to compare the deep purple, this shade here. And this is Violet Saturday. And this is the creme formula. So I'm going to put this right up here so we can see how close that is. You can see it is similar. This one has a little bit more blue in it, but they're pretty close. And just one more time, I'm just going to take this shimmer here from the Metallic Mauve palette and just put that right up here next to this one as well. Yeah, I really think those are identical. They look pretty much the same. I would say it's the same shade. So I hope these were helpful. Let's go ahead and move on to the cheek duo. Now, first, just a quick little hello from Sadie here. Just caught her going through the bathroom. One of her favorite things, very cat-like, is taking the toilet paper off the roll, and she loves to steal the roll. So she was trying to abscond with the toilet paper right now. So let's take a look at the blush and highlight duo. And this is number 1, High Altitude. And we have cream products here. This first shade, by the way, my fingers are a little stained, but this first shade is going to be a sheer translucent highlight. Let's go ahead and, well, you know what? We'll put these here on my arm. Here is the highlight, and you can see it's going to be sheer, but we do have a touch of frosty whiteness to it. Dog was trying to steal nail polish now. But the actual blush shade here, this is going to be a very sheer blush shade. So this, you can see just like when I'm swatching it here, look how much you can really sheer this out. So you can sheer it out so it's barely there. You can pile it up a little bit more. Formula-wise, this is not the same as the Rose Cafe one that came out most recently. So we're going to take a look at these, but let's take a look at the demos and details. So just a few product details. This palette also retails for $100 US. So it's definitely a hefty price tag for cream products. And we have 15 grams of product. It's made in Canada, and there is no suggested shelf life written on the palette. According to Tom Ford, this is a lightweight, seamlessly blendable cream blush highlighter duo that creates a luminous, glowing look of softly flushed, winter-kissed skin. The Cream to Satin Soleil Neige blush highlight duo in 01 High Altitude recreates the natural flush of skin kissed by solar light atop an alpine summit. The sheer highlight draws light to optically lift facial high points, while the blush shade adds dimensional rosy color. Is long wearing, suitable for all skin types, color true, non-streaking, flaking, settling, creasing, or pouring. And they actually recommend using a brush with this product. But in the demos, you'll see I've tried it with a brush and fingertips. goes on nicely both ways, so you can really customize your application with whatever you'd like to use. Now for the highlight shade, I wanted to see how much of this would actually peek through if I used it underneath foundation, kind of like the Westman Atelier Lit Up Sticks. I would have to say you get a subtle glow from that. I can see a little bit of the highlighter from there, but not much. And if I went with a full coverage foundation, I probably wouldn't see it at all. But this was more light to medium coverage. It's a 50-50 mix of the Cle de Peau Radiant Matte and Radiant Natural foundations, and I wear shade I-10. Now I also wanted to show you what it looks like on top of foundation. So I added that on top of the cheekbones so that you could really see how that applies as well. For both the blush and the highlighter, I used finger application and brush application, but you can see when I'm applying the blush that I did kind of warm it up and pat it on my hands to help warm that up, but also to help kind of disperse it through the tips of the bristles to really make sure that I had an even application. I think it goes on beautifully with both fingertips and with the brush. Now, this is going to have more of that glossy finish, so you have a bit of a sheen to it. There's no glitter in this, but you do have a bit of that shine. And one thing to note is this does not truly 100% like set down. You're going to feel a little bit of tackiness on this throughout the day. Now, if you use just the tiniest bit of product, obviously you can, blend that into the skin so you don't feel it. But if you do want to see some color, you are going to feel just a little bit. It's not, I wouldn't say it's sticky, but I can feel a little bit of that on there when I go to touch my face. So just something to note, because that's not something that everybody cares for. Now, I would have to say though, my hair does not get stuck in this, so it's not sticky at all. It's just that I can actually feel the product there. Now, I do want to note that the photos for this product, I think, are pretty misleading online. Actually, the photos for the whole collection are, but online, this definitely looks more peach in the photos than it is in real life. It is definitely going to be kind of this peachy pink, but we have a bit more pink in there than what's portrayed in the promo photos. Overall, I think it's a nice product. I do like the blush. I think it definitely gives you that kind of flushed look. And honestly, these types of highlighters I don't use too frequently. So if you like that type and you use them a lot, then that makes this palette pretty much worth it. However, if you're going into it specifically for the blush shade, it may not be. So let's take a look at some comparison swatches. I don't have a dupe, but I did want to take a look at some other products. So first thing, I want to start off with the shade in Illuminate. And this is Intensity 0.5. This is from Tom Ford, but I wanted to show you how this highlighter shade compares. So here is our translucent highlight, and you can see that this one here, they're pretty much the same. You're not going to see a huge difference. I would say that this one in Intensity 0.5 is slightly more white, but they're pretty much the same. And then this is the Westman Atelier Lit Up Stick in Lit. And this actually has a bit more of that pink blue reflect, but if you were to disregard that, you have the same base to it. We just don't have any of those, that pink in there in the Tom Ford. It's definitely just kind of a pure color. As for the blush shade, I wanted to start off with this Tom Ford blush, which I love this. This is Cafe Blush. This came out, oh, when did I get this? I wore it like all summer. The formula for this is similar. However, it's not quite as sheer. We don't have as much of that shine in the product. So this is slightly more like a cream blush per se, whereas this is almost more like a tint because we have a lot more transparency with this. This is going to be a more opaque shade. You can see we've got more brown in here, and it's kind of like a peachy pink dusty rose. And I love this particular shade. This one here, the new one from Tom Ford, is going to be much more brightening. And again, you have kind of that natural translucency to it that gives itself a sheen as well. You don't even need the highlighter for it because you have that same kind of like clear layer on there. Now, a few more comparisons. This is from Flavedo and Albedo, and this is the Dew Tint in Grapefruit. So I actually went through all of my cream and liquid blushes to see what I could find that was close to this. So these are my closest matches out of everything that I own. But you can see this is not going to be the same. This is a little bit more watermelon pink. It's definitely deeper. We do have a similar texture to it, but this is going to be more opaque as well. So if you've tried these, the texture of it is going to feel the same, but we have more translucency with the Tom Ford. Next, we have the Basma in Mauve. And this one here is probably one of my closest. You can see this is going to be a dustier shade. We've got more pink in it. The Tom Ford has a bit more peach. It's going to be a little bit brighter. And again, it's going to be a little bit more sheer. This is the #1 de Chanel in #2 Healthy Pink. This is much more opaque, but we do have kind of that glossy sheen to this. You can see this is going to be a bit more peach. Next up from Jones Road, this is Rosy Brown. And texturally, this feels very, very similar. You can see we've got a lot of translucency with this as well. This has maybe not quite as much shine as the Tom Ford, but it's going to be pretty close. This particular shade is going to be rosier. It's got more pink in it than the Tom Ford. And let's just extend the Tom Ford a little bit more, so we can have just a couple more to look at. So this is the Violette FR in the Bisou blush in the shade Louise. And this is, again, going to be more opaque. It's a more nude version, but we do have kind of that same peachy rose combination in it. However, it's just going to be a little bit of a dustier version. And then as for liquids, I have a couple of the YSL. This is #37, Peachy Nude. These are going to be more opaque. We'll put them here on this side. But they are a really beautiful option. So this is 37, Peachy Nude. You can see that definitely has a bit more peach and nude in it. And then we have 44, Nude Lavalier, which is going to be a bit rosier. So it's almost as if the Tom Ford is right in between these two shades, yet more sheer. So I hope this was helpful, just so you can get an idea of the blush shade. And let's go ahead and move on to the lip glosses. So there are 3 new shades of the Tom Ford Gloss Luxe lip glosses. I love the Tom Ford lip glosses. They haven't come out with new shades in a while, and unfortunately they did discontinue my favorite shade a few years back. Smoked Glass, by the way, if anybody still has that. But let's take a look at the new shades. So this one here is #16, Celestial. You can see here is our wand here. And one of the things that's great about this wand is it's fairly flexible. You can see the flexibility here. So this shade #16, Celestial, is going to be a sheer transparent gloss with a little bit of that frosty white base. And then we have multicolored shimmer in here. So I'm not sure how well the colors show up on the camera, but it's a really pretty gloss. So on my lips right now, I actually have the Tom Ford lip pencil in 101 Close Up, which is this shade. And I have it topped with this gloss in Celestial to give a little bit of sheen and sparkle. Then we have 17, Peak Flush. And I love how the Tom Ford glosses are in square packaging, because I don't have to worry about them rolling around. So this is going to be our Peak Flush #17. You can see this is going to be a peach shade. And we have very finely milled shimmer in there, but I wouldn't call it a glitter. There is some glitter, but it's not going to be as glittery as something like 16 Celestial. It is subtle glitter, and you can see it in the tube here. Now, just a note, with these Tom Ford glosses, if you have a shimmery one and you store it like this, you haven't used it in a while, you do want to shake it up because it does kind of settle a bit. So it's just something to note. This one also has shimmer. So there's shimmer in all of the glosses. This is going to be #18, Pinnacle. And this is going to be our rosy shade here. And here it is. So that's Pinnacle. So these are the 3 glosses. Let's take a look at the lip swatches, and then we'll come back and do some comparisons. The Soleil Neige Gloss Luxe lip glosses from Tom Ford retail for $65 US. We have 5.5 milliliters of product, and these are made in Canada. And I have to say, I do really like their glosses, and I've never had an issue with the glosses going rancid early like some of the lipsticks have in the past. So they actually last for many years. I still have my smoked glass shade that, they discontinued a few years ago. So they do tend to last a long time before anything changes in them. So as I mentioned, we have 3 shades. They retail for $65 US. And according to Tom Ford, this is a luminous liquid balm to be worn alone as a lip gloss for light as air coverage and glass-like shine, or layered over lipstick for fuller looking lips. The sensorial liquid balm comfortably glides onto lips for a pristine wash of color that offers sheer to medium coverage. Each lightweight shade offers airy comfort. Blended with avocado, jojoba seed, mango seed butter, and chamomile flower oils. There's a long list of ingredients that it is formulated without, so definitely take a look at that if you're interested. But some things to note would be alcohol or drying alcohols, talc, gluten, peroxide, mineral oil. So again, much longer list than that as well. Personally, I'm really happy to see them bring out new shades of these glosses. Usually for the holiday, they bring out like a pH adaptive like gloss product or like lip balm, and I prefer these over those. So I'm very happy to see these. I love their formula. You do have kind of that super sweet vanilla fragrance to it, and it is going to be a thicker, more luscious gloss on your lips. It feels very luxurious in my opinion. It's not sticky, but it does feel like a little bit of a buttery gloss, and I personally love it. Definitely high shine. Let's take a look at a few comparisons. So this is a Tom Ford gloss in the buff, and I want to show you, see how this shimmer is really absent from this side. Again, that's from the way I stored it. So I'm just gonna shake this up. All right, and this is going to be number 21 in the buff. Now, this is not going to be that similar because we have kind of this more sheer peach base, but we do have shimmer in here. The shimmer in this, however, is going to be mostly gold. We do have some other shades in there. There's some silver, there's some pink glitter in there, but it's mostly gold. And I love this gloss. It's actually one that I do use as a topper quite frequently. Then I also want to take a look at these Cle de Peau glosses. So this one is 302 Macara, and this is going to actually be much more glittery than the Tom Ford. And you can see this is going to be more of a golden champagne gloss. It's really much more champagne than gold. So I love it for that. But you can see that the shimmer in here is significantly more concentrated in the Cle de Peau. And then I also wanted to take a look at 301 Sweet Nectar from Cle de Peau. And this is going to be significantly cooler. This has more of that blue and pink shimmer in there. Again, it's more concentrated. And yeah, so I would say that this is fairly different. I also wanted to take a look at the Lancome Gloss by Lisa Eldridge. And this is 24 Diamond Glitter. It came out with their holiday collection. And let me go ahead, I'm going to put this one right here so we can kind of see those up close. And you can see that the shimmer in here is going to be more like silver and blue, but they are fairly similar. I would say these two are more alike than the other ones that I swatched. Next, as for the Peak Flush, I don't have too many shades like that. I don't wear peachy glosses super frequently. So this one here is one of the Dior Maximizers in 21. And this one also has shimmer. But you can see that this is going to be more of an orange. It's not as peach. It's more of a true orange. Think of like a lighter version of the outside of a clementine. And then this is the SUQQU lip gloss in 106. This was a limited edition shade. And again, this one actually is pretty peachy, but it's got more brown in it. It's got more of a warm brown hue to it. Let's just swipe that again. So the Tom Ford is going to be fairly different from both of these. However, this one also has shimmer. So all of the comparisons here do have some shimmer, just like the Tom Ford. And then as for Pinnacle, I thought I would have something more similar than I do, but this is probably the closest. This is the Armani in number 6. This does not have shimmer, but you can see the color here has some similarities. The Armani is going to be cooler. It has a little bit more purple in it. The Tom Ford has a bit more of a burgundy hue to it in comparison. And then we have a couple more Tom Ford ones to look at. This is 24 Honeyed Coral. And this is a shade I really love. This one came out with the In the Buff, but you can see this one's going to be a little bit cooler. It's more pink. There's a touch of lavender in it, but really it's more of just a pink or rose kind of shade. And then we have 22 Sunrise Pink. This one here does not have any shimmer. And you can see it is going to be more of a warmer pink, more medium toned. And then I have one more. This is 23 Bare Ast. And again, this is a really beautiful shade. We'll just put this one right here. This is going to be lighter, more of a soft mauve kind of shade. This is one of my favorites. It has more purple in it than this one here, the Honeyed Coral. So really beautiful. And again, the only one of those that did not have shimmer is this one, the Sunrise Pink. So I hope these were helpful. And overall, I have to say, I think that the Tom Ford Soleil Neige collection this year is a nice, solid collection. I wouldn't say that there are any truly standout products here. There's nothing here that's like, oh, this is so innovative, or this is so different from usual, or anything like that. There are no like formula changes that are like, wow. But it's a nice, solid collection. The eyeshadow palette, I really like the color story. You've got decent quality there. Again, nothing spectacular. I still don't think that their formulas are as nice as the older versions of the Tom Ford quads, like when New Dip came out and so forth. I still feel like those formulas were better. But as far as current Tom Ford palettes, the quality is good in comparison to all of those. The highlighter duo, I think, is a really nice product. I do like it a lot. It definitely has a hefty price tag. So I think for something like that, that can go bad fairly quickly, or, you know, can like kind of dry up or get kind of crusty depending on how you store your makeup. I think something like that for that price tag has to be an item that you're really going to want to use a lot. So I think it's a nice product, but it's pretty expensive for what you get, especially if, like me, you prefer the blush over the highlighter. As for the glosses, I love the glosses. I'm definitely happy that I picked up all 3 of them, but my favorite is probably going to be the Pinnacle, followed by this one here, the Celestial, just because I think it's really pretty. However, I think the Lancome is very close to that. So I think, you know, if you're looking for a lower price option and you don't wear that type of gloss without too much color too frequently, the Lancome's a great deal for that. However, I'm really happy with all 3 of these. I'm glad I picked them up. So in summation, I have to say it's a nice collection. I'm happy with everything there. But again, there's nothing here that's like, wow, this is going to be one of my favorite items of the holiday season, like there were with the Soleil Neige highlighters last year for me. So I'd love to know what you think about this collection, whether you've tried anything yet or you're interested in trying it. Again, we do have the Sephora VIB sale coming up at the end of the month, or well, beginning of November. So if you are part of that, it might be a good opportunity to purchase some of these items at that time. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your support, and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you very soon, and I hope you have a wonderful day.